I heard moaning coming from the direction of my bedroom. And when I say it was loud, I mean it was very loud. There was loud banging on the headboard as it hit the wall, screaming, "More the works." Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go with them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, gonna go over a story titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling the truth?" Well, to answer that, no. And a big shout out to the dude that sent me this story. And guys, this story is all about a guy. He's 33 years old. He's married to his wife for like 7 or 8 years. She's 31. And they have a 6-year-old daughter. And up until this point, he thought he had a great marriage. We've all heard that before. He was busting his butt working 2 jobs to provide for the family. He was tired, but he still thought he had a good thing going. And then one day, he discovers his wife's cheating. He walks in on her, no joke, doing the dirty deed. And it only gets worse from there for a while until eventually things turn around for him. And they definitely do on many fronts. And also, more importantly, karma comes back to strike this lying, deceitful a-hole wife of his in the butt big time. And you guys are going to get a big kick out of this, particularly you guys that have been through ugly divorces, that were good husbands, worked hard to provide, and you were just completely crapped on for how good you were. They'll definitely enjoy this one. And by the way, guys, my allergies are killing me today, so you can probably tell in my voice, so excuse me if there's any sniffing or coughing. I'm doing my best. Show must go on, but it's just one of those days in the spring in Massachusetts. So it starts off, it says here, I, a 33-year-old male, work 2 jobs with long hours, which really sucks. But I do it to provide for my wife and my daughter. It is wearing on me and wearing me out, but when I see my daughter smile, it brightens my day, and it makes it all worthwhile in the end. Let me back up a bit and let me explain a few things. I was born into foster care since I was abandoned at a church shortly after I was born. I wouldn't find out who my parents were until later, but it wouldn't really mean anything to me, and actually hurt me worse when I found out how terrible they were. It was a blessing you were dropped off at the church. So I was born into 2 different foster care homes, which luckily for me weren't as bad as I hear from so many other people who are put in the same situation, and I thank God for that. My biggest dream was to have a family of my own, to make up for the lack of one I never got. That happens to a lot of people. Shitty childhood, so they often rush into a marriage and give way too much, and it blows up in their face. You can't rush into things like marriage and family and all that. And when I was 24, I met and then married my current wife after she got pregnant. Smack. Way too freaking young. This is what I'm talking about, rushing into marrying people. You need to take your time, properly vet them, and you're going to see why that is the case. I want to be responsible, so I did the right thing and proposed so as to take care of her and the baby. I was going to college at the time, but due to the need for money as well as a tight budget, I had to leave and find work fast. Luckily, I have friends who were able to help me get a good job while it paid all the bills. While it paid the bills, I would still need more money to provide for the baby, so I took another job to start saving up and have worked at both these jobs for years. For the record, I work as security in the morning and as a chef at night at a dinner-only restaurant. So my life for the past 8 years has been basically me going to work early in the morning, coming home to hold my daughter, and play with her a bit to let her know that Daddy loves her, and then I would take a nap until I need to go to my second job at night. So this guy is busting his butt for his family, doing what he has to do. This guy is a real freaking man. Problem is that he's busting his butt, and he rushed into the marriage and isn't around much to see who his wife really is. I was the only one working since my wife insisted that she be a stay-at-home mother, which was fine with me since someone was at home to watch her daughter when she came home from school. Smack! No. Why should you have to be busting your butt all the time and get little sleep so she can be a stay-at-home mom? I get in the beginning, obviously when the child's a baby and a toddler and growing up and a daycare is so expensive, but when the child is old enough to go off to school, definitely kindergarten, maybe pre-K, or maybe she could have some relatives watch a couple days a week, that wife needs to contribute because, well, you're going to see. A bit more than 2 weeks ago, I found out my wife has been cheating on me. And what I would come to learn later is that this has been going on for years. I came home early from my morning job due to the building being shut down so the security system could be upgraded. So I went home in a good mood and thought to play with my daughter a bit and then nap before going to my night job. He says, actually get enough sleep for once. When I got home, I noticed a strange car in the driveway. I never saw it before, so I had no idea who it belonged to. I worry since this is strange, so I quietly enter my house with a tire iron just in case it was a home robbery or something like that, just to defend myself. But that wasn't the case. No, it was much worse. If you've been watching this channel a lot and other stories like this, what could possibly be going on? I heard moaning coming in from the direction of my bedroom. And when I say it was loud, I mean it was very loud. There was loud banging as the headboard hit the wall, her screaming more, the works. So I tiptoed to my room and looked through the crack to see some guy nailing my wife in our bed. This wasn't grape. This wasn't some sort of consensual situation. No, this was her willingly effing a guy in our bed. So it's bad enough that she's cheating on him, but in their own bed, in his house, he's busting his butt with 2 jobs, bad sleep, doing everything he can to take care of his family. She insisted on being the single mom, no job. And where's the daughter during all this? I'm assuming she's 6 years old. She's at kindergarten or something, or first grade. Great. This is the thanks he gets. The revelation of this stunted me to the point I felt my heart stop. Time slowed down and I couldn't move as I just stood there and watching my wife getting screwed. But then I heard her say something that I will never forget. And listen to this, guys. She says, and he quotes, "Come inside me. My husband will never know and take care of it if I get pregnant again." How nice. Those words flipped my world around. I left my house just as quietly as I entered it, and I drove off. I drove to a hilltop view of the city, one that I went to when I was younger, as it gave me a peace of mind, and I broke down in tears. The wife I loved, the one I sacrificed for so much, had been cheating on me, and according to what I was hearing, my own daughter might not be mine. This is the thanks this guy gets. This is terrible. Again, this is why you don't rush into marriage. You take your time. Amongst many of the things, you always have to watch out, pay attention to the red flags. You can't just go through life naive thinking that everything's wonderful. And there's no way in my mind that she didn't display, bad qualities prior to all this. So, I got a DNA kit in secret, got a bit of a DNA for my daughter without my wife knowing, and sent it in for the results. I prayed for the first time in years that my fears were wrong, that maybe I just misheard out of shock or rage, so I waited until the test result came in. And unfortunately, they proved that I was not the father of our child. God, this poor bastard. All these years, not his kid. And obviously, his wife knew. I remember staying home that day, waiting for her to come home. When she did, she saw me sitting at the table and sat down across from me. She asked what was wrong, and I said nothing as I slid the papers across the table that proved our daughter was not mine. Her face went white as she saw them, and he said to her, "Why?" That was the only thing I could manage to say. The rage within me was indescribable at this point. She tried to make up some lie, some excuse in her head that I saw, but in the end she told me, now listen to this, guys. She said to him, word for word, "It's because you were never there for me. You did this to me. I have urges and you weren't around to satisfy." In other words, he's busting his butt with 2 jobs to provide because she didn't want to get a job. She insisted on being a stay-at-home mom, even though the kid's in school now. And she's blaming him for being away all the time. Therefore, it's his fault and she had to cheat. It's all his fault. Sound familiar? I left after hearing her say that. This woman, this effing B, who told me all the time and time again that we didn't have enough money to put in for more hours so we could pay for the things we needed, had the audacity to tell me that her cheating on me was my fault. That me working all day to provide for my family was reason enough to cheat on me. Never in my life have I ever wanted to smack a woman across the face so hard, yet I never have or nor will unless my life itself is threatened. Nobody would blame him. Unfortunately, the courts would, and the police. I packed a bag with clothes and then went to a friend's place and explained what happened. They told me to file for divorce, so I went through the process, and I'm still going through it as of writing this post. Thank God he rushed to do that. The issue that might make me the a-hole here is that we were invited to a family reunion this last Sunday, and I had taken time off to go. Her family respected me and thought of me as family. So we went, since we had said we would go, and her daughter should hang around with her cousins when we were able to. No freaking way. I'd say you could take the daughter there. Number one, in that moment when his life is crumbling, it's not his daughter. Number two, she's cheating on him, and no remorse, and he's filing for divorce. Like, you can take her. But he does. So we went, blah, blah, blah. The entire time we were there, and on our way, which took about 3 hours by car, she begged me not to mention the cheating or the not being the father bit. Oh, okay. The reason for this is that her great-grandmother, a woman in her late 90s, who even I respect despite no actual blood relation to her, was there, and this was likely going to be her last reunion before she left for a better place. My wife didn't want her great-grandmother to know and hate her for it. I promised nothing and simply grunted as a response. Talk about a selfish a-hole. So we get there, and I hang out with the guys there, as far away from my wife as I could. And all day I hear these men tell me that I'm doing such a good job being a father to our daughter. This isn't the first time they did this since the last reunion I went to, and they explained they hadn't approved of me at first. They assumed I was going to be a deadbeat dad sort of person and actually apologized when they saw it I was not. Probably because they're used to his wife, their relative there, probably dating a lot of lowlives. But this is the guy that, got together with her. To this day, I still hold no hard feelings about that assumption, since in a way I can understand where they are coming from. But now every compliment on the matter felt like a knife to my heart, since I knew the truth about my wife's daughter. Yet I remained silent and just thanked them for their compliments. Well, the family reunion is about to get very interesting in a moment. It wasn't until later that day that my wife's great-grandmother slowly came my way and spoke to me. She said the same thing as the men had, since she had seen so many parents in her life who didn't put in the amount of effort that I did to raise a family. But it was at that point that I finally broke down and cried. Here I was, surrounded by my in-laws, crying hard. She took my hand and gave me a look that says, "Tell me your troubles, child." And I told her everything. The cheating, the truth about her great-granddaughter, everything. The silence that followed was indescribable, and I apologized and told them I couldn't be there anymore. Can you imagine being the fly on the wall of that whole party there? Now, how do you think his soon-to-be ex-wife is going to react when her whole family knows about her indiscretions? Probably not too well. I got in my car and drove 3 hours home. I didn't get my wife or daughter. I drove home alone with my phone off. When I got home, I turned it on to see that I had so many missed calls from my wife and messages that summed up to her calling me an a-hole for telling her family the truth, and that I ruined her relationship with her family, and that she was going to make my life a living hell when she got back home. Well, I hope he has proof of those threats. And it's his fault. How about you, honey? How about you spreading your legs to so many dudes we came and have a calculator to calculate that number? After everything I did for you. So I called a few friends and began the process of boxing my stuff. She got home Tuesday night via her sister driving her back. But by this point, I had all but moved into my friend's downstairs parlor area where I'm riding this route right now. While telling the truth was honestly like lifting a burden off my shoulder, I fear the ramifications of doing so for my wife's daughter. Because I told the extended family that she is the product of an affair, she might be shunned and hated like her mother now is with their members. Never did I want this. For her, I would never wish such a thing on the child, since it wasn't her choice to be born as she was. Am I the a-hole for telling her family the truth? No. The a-hole is your ex-wife. I can't even put into words how much of a piece of garbage she is, and I feel bad for that poor little girl. It's not that little girl's fault that her mom is a piece of garbage and an awful person, and this poor guy, everything he did for her. So again, this reminds you guys why you don't rush into relationships. You certainly don't rush into marriage. You get to know who she is, everything about her, her past, her family, her friends, how she's resolving conflict. And you don't allow the gal to be the stay-at-home mom and not do anything to earn a penny while the daughter is in school. No, Don't fall for the I'm going to be the big strong man protecting my missus and providing everything. It doesn't work that way. That's not fair to him. Now we're on to part 2, where now things will get better for the guy and things will get increasingly worse for the ex-wife. It says here, man oh man, do I have so much to tell but so little time to do so. As many people who've heard my story have asked, I've come back to update after all hell broke loose from telling my now ex-wife's family about her cheating. In the 2 months since I've been free from her, I finalized my divorce, which unfortunately I had to pay a lot of money. And when I say a lot, I mean 5 digits worth. But it is a small price to pay for her to be away from her. Nobody's surprised there. He had to spend all his money on legal fees and everything else. I got to keep my house, since apparently if everything is in my name, all the utilities and bills are paid by me, and since she has no source of income given, I paid for everything, she had no right to the house. Hooray for my ex being a lazy, lying bitch. Well, that's awesome, but I'm not quite sure how that happened so fast and how he got everything. I don't know if he's in this country, and if he is in this country, what state he lives in, and the situations where everything's in his name and he does all the work, and yet he got off so easy. But okay, fine, whatever. I still live in my friend's parlor area since I like it better, but I rent out my old house to 3 people. Again, how did he get her out of there so quickly that he can now rent out to other people? But okay. It says the people that rent are a couple and one other guy who is their friend. As far as I know, they are good people and they have been no problems other than a leaky pipe under the bathroom sink that I had to fix, as well as replace a new screen window. I quit my night job as a cook, and I'm now able to get more sleep, so I'm happier during the day and more active. But while I was recovering from all this, little did I know that trouble was going to find me. Oh, there's going to be trouble, and can you guess from who? But she digs her own grave. My wife took her daughter and stayed with a friend of hers since none of her family was willing to take her in. She had made her bed, and they wanted nothing to do with her. Apparently this caused her to go into a Great Depression, and unfortunately that led to drugs and alcohol. What about the kid? Be strong for your kid, but obviously not, because she's a selfish piece of garbage. Obviously a sociopath, narcissist. This caused her to go through the money I gave her far too fast, and while she self-medicated herself, her daughter suffered while my ex and her friend left her alone when they went out and partied it up. No surprise there. And how long until the local government, Child Protective, the state, gets involved, huh? That's child abandonment. I'm not exactly sure on the details myself, but my ex's family got wind of this and called Child Protective Services. Thank the Lord. Hopefully, situations like this, the child will always go to family instead of going off to foster care or something like that, And remember, this is the child that he thought was his all this time. And you can understand why there's a part of him that just doesn't want to see her and the mother and all that. But on the other hand, he thought this was his child. But you'll see how this ends. The family investigated, the Child Protective Service investigated and took her daughter from her given the situation, and my ex's family took her in since they loved her. Good. Very good. The loss of her daughter was apparently the tipping point, since my ex went into a fairly insane form of depression, which she caused. She caused this whole mess. Boo-hoo. Case in point, she came to my work and tried to talk to me, all the while shouting about how she was so sorry and that I had to take her back. Oh yeah, I'll take you back after all that. And I can tell how sorry you are, because you got nothing left. That's why you're sorry. I have let all the others at work know what she's done to me, so they were not friendly towards her at all, and demanded that she leave the premises before they would be forced to escort her out. After a bit, she had given up, yet not before doing a full 180, and instead of begging me to take her back, she started cursing me and insulting me. Shocker. She threw out everything from "I'm not a real man" to insulting the size of my you-know-what. He says, man, we all laughed with every new thing she shouted out. Isn't that amazing? Just like that. The begging and pleading, "I'm so sorry," and all that. F you, your you-know-what is small, blah, blah, blah. Not a real man. If anybody's a real man, this guy is. Good Lord, look what he did for her and the kid. Anything to take care of his family. And the thanks he got. Now, while I wish this was not the end of the situation, unfortunately, it is not. Apparently, my ex began to stalk me after this without me knowing. She saw me go back to my old house from time to time to either get my stuff that was in the garage or to fix a few things that I needed to. She saw me chatting with a woman, the one who is in a solid relationship with another tenant on my property, who I will say is a looker, but I'm not one to try and hit on another man's woman. Somehow, she connected the dots and thought I had moved on and had found someone new in my life. In her insane mind, which can only be called narcissistic at this point, since she assumed that my entire life was supposed to be about providing for her, no matter what she did, seeing me around another woman was a big no-no. So what happened next was that a few days later, my ex broke into our old house, since she didn't know that I no longer lived there, and that I was renting it, and tried to off me. I got the details from my tenants, and they told me that she was high out of her mind on something, and was screaming that she owned me, and that if she can't have a good life with me, I can't either. Freaking nut job. There was more, but I'm sure you get the picture. Now, what I failed to mention is that the one lone guy in the house, he comes from a military family. While he never served himself, his father trained him into the ground due to bullies in the past, so he's quite capable of defending himself against a drugged-up, insane woman with a knife. She broke into the house with the intention of offing him with a knife and attacked that guy, and obviously he defended himself and took her to the ground. She's going away for a very, very long time. So, my ex is now in prison. I don't remember for how long, since it doesn't matter to me, but what does matter is that her great-grandmother had called me. She had apologized to me along with my ex's own mother about my ex's behavior. They even asked me the one question I never thought I would be asked. Would you like to adopt your ex's daughter? I'm sure you guys all saw that coming. Now, this guy has a right to say no. He really does. But remember, he raised her. And it's not the daughter's fault what her mother did, who her mother is. But Mama is going to be in prison for a very long time. We hope. Now, I won't lie. I didn't answer at first. A large portion of my mind told me to say no. That this was not my child and that as such no longer my concern. And from what I learned in the trial, not even my ex knew the father, since she'd been sleeping with so many other men, that it made me question just how the hell I didn't get an STD from this woman. But I counted my lucky stars I did not. But then they handed me the phone and she called me Daddy, like she had since she could talk. I cried as I heard her say that one word. The memories of the times I was there to make her smile, the laughter, the good time. I never had a chance to be raised properly since I was in foster care because my parents had abandoned me. I would not abandon my daughter. So I said yes. As I'm writing this update, she is now my legal daughter, and I couldn't be happier. I write this update in honor of my great ex's grandmother, whose funeral I, as well as my daughter, have just left since she passed at the age of 96. I shed tears for this woman who was family to me, and it was with the help of that. Let me start over. I shed tears for this woman who was family to me, and it was with her help that my life was made whole once more. R.I.P. So there you go, guys. That's a crazy one. A lot of guys in this situation, even though it's not the child's fault, would be like, "No, I'm sorry. I wish you the best. Maybe I'll give a little money, but I got to move on." But this guy's different, because this was the girl he thought was his child. Now, the other problem is, as you can imagine, as funny and warranted it is that his crazy ex, who's an awful human being, sorry excuse for a human being, she's in prison, but we don't know how long. I mean, let's see, breaking and entering, assault with a deadly weapon, attempted, and there's plenty of other things they could throw at her. Still, she could probably BS enough to probably get out in good behavior. I don't know how it works. I'm not a freaking lawyer. I'm not a cop. But she's going away for a long time, but clearly it won't be long enough. I just hope like hell it's long enough that she won't have to get involved with a girl as a teenager and still growing and all that. But he's going to eventually have to deal with her one way or another. You know she's going to be sending letters to the girl and all that stuff like that. But maybe by him being the adopted father, he can make the choice saying, no, there's going to be no communication, no letters, nothing. Who knows? But I wish this guy the best. I hope he has a good second part of his life. He's in his early 30s. He's got his whole life ahead of him. and does a great job raising that girl. And it sounds to me like her family had nothing to do with her. Hope it stays that way, and the girl's a nice life. But anyhow, guys, it goes to show you, can't rush into things. Got to take your time, get to know who she is, and amongst many other things. And look at the things he got. And there are a lot of psycho gals out there that will just milk a good guy for everything it's worth. Meanwhile, they're hooking up with guys who are complete opposite scumbags because that's what turns them on. Crazy. But I wish this guy the best. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.